on this year, Azerbaijan is going to be hosting the COP29 climate summit, at which the latest initiatives aimed at tackling the climate crisis will be discussed. But ahead of that summit in November, campaigners have begun voicing their concerns about what they say has been a crackdown on the media and civil society there in Azerbaijan. Well, the country ranks close to the bottom of Transparency International's annual list. Well, let's get some more analysis, and we can speak now to Rachel Denber, who is the Deputy Director of Europe and Central Asia's Division of Human Rights Watch. Thank you so much for joining us. Should Azerbaijan be hosting COP29?
Well, the fact is that Azerbaijan already is hosting COP29, and it's hosting COP29 at a time when the government has been cracking down very hard, and a new crackdown on journalists, bloggers, opposition politicians, and also even academics, particularly academics who investigate such issues as revenue transparency in the hydrocarbon sector.
Okay, give us a couple more examples that you're hearing about, cases people being hounded, I mean, in particular journalists and these other cases we've been reading about.
Well, one case that that deserves special attention is that of Gubadi Baroghlu, who is an academic who had been focusing most of his professional career on revenue transparency and fighting corruption. And he was arrested in July on completely bogus, laughable charges of currency counterfeiting. And he was recently released to house arrest. But in the lead up to COP, and a country that is supposed to be, as the host of COP, supposed to be reflecting the needs for a robust civil society, in order for COP's climate, in order for COP to effectively promote a robust climate policies for the elimination, for example, of fossil fuels, you need to have a civil society that has the space to challenge government policies. You need to have a civil society that can challenge government records. And if in a country like Azerbaijan, that's just not possible. And so you really have to wonder why it is that the government is choosing this moment to crack down so hard on independent television stations. It's cracked down on 3. Since in just the past 12 months, it has either arrested or sentenced at least 25 journalists, bloggers, activists, and academics, labor activists. So, I mean, there's a moment now in advance of COP when members of the Paris Treaty can and should really press Azerbaijan to end this crackdown, to free Gubadi Baroghlu and others who have been unjustly imprisoned and persecuted, to show that Azerbaijan can in fact host this conference with credibility.
I mean, some people might be wondering why Azerbaijan was given this opportunity in the first place. I mean, why was the decision taken that Azerbaijan should be the host if it's got this sketchy record?
Well, the decisions about the host country are made. They're voted on. It's in some ways a geopolitical decision. Azerbaijan is certainly not the first host with a sketchy record, both on human rights issues, civil society issues, and also very sketchy record on the fossil fuel industry. But the point is that that there needs to be transparency now about the host country contract, the contract that the UN actually signs with the host country for hosting COP. And I think that the fact that we've already had Egypt and the Emirates and now Azerbaijan hosting COP, I think that really points to the need for specific human rights conditionality to be baked into the host country contract, and for there to be transparency about the contract, so that we don't see this happen again.
Yeah, I mean, some people watching might think, okay, we take the point about the human rights and the civil liberties issues in Azerbaijan, but the point of COP is, of course, to talk about climate change, and they'd say, well, that can still happen, can't it?
I think actually it's pretty hard to have real climate change, positive movement on climate change, unless you have civil society that can openly and robustly challenge a government's climate policies. If the government, especially in a government that is in a country that's very dependent on fossil fuel industry for its, for its revenues. It's very hard to imagine how you can have, an open and robust conversation about reducing or even eliminating fossil fuels. Open and robust conversations about revenue transparency in the fossil fuel industry, especially in Azerbaijan, when people who, as part of their just everyday work, even without the issue of climate change, have been arrested and persecuted, harassed, silenced, driven into exile because they're raising these very issues.
OK, well, I'm afraid we're out of time, but thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Rachel Denber, Deputy Director of the Europe and Central Asia Division of Human Rights Watch. Thank you.